What is this? Okay, when you are done, we will continue. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Yeah. And thank you very much for coming. And I also want to take this opportunity to greet all that are following online. My name is Kaiser Khanyago. I'm standing here in my capacity as the national spokesperson for the NPA. We are having this first briefing by the National Director of Public Prosecution, Advocate Andy Mothibi, and he is here in front, accompanied by his two deputies, which is Dates Bongile Mzinyati, who is in charge of the National Prosecuting Services, and then we've got Kumam Tengwana, who is in charge of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. They're the two deputies of the National of the NPA. We are not going to waste time. We're going to ask Advocate Mothibi to come forward and take us through his presentation, which will just outline where we are going in terms of the NPA, its priorities, and what are the issues that needs to be dealt with. And after that, we will be given an opportunity to ask questions, and that will be the program for the day. Thank you very much, Advocate Mothibi. Without wasting more time, you can come and address.
Right. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I am pleased to to appear before you today to come and give you an update on what one would call the state of the NPA. I'm informed that time is of the essence, and we have prepared quite a detailed statement for obvious reasons that we really wanted to give you the current status, but the time given to me is no less than 40 minutes, I was told, and I'll really try to stick to that. I greet you all, to the media present, the South African public. Let me also greet my colleagues, Advocate Mzinyati, as Mr. Khanyago indicated. He's the acting Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions in charge of the National Prosecution Services. So he's almost like your COO type. He's in charge of the operations of the organization. And then, of course, you've got Advocate Kumam Tengwana, who is the acting head of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. So, as I indicate that, and this is the first time that I address the media as the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And I know that most of the media members have been reaching out shortly after I've started to really take the interviews and outline what the priorities will be and so on. And I've been indicating that I needed some time to immerse myself in the organization, engage with the colleagues in the organization, understand the status of the business, the priorities, the strategy, and then I would be in a better position to address the media. So I've done that. So I've engaged my colleagues in the organization, in the NPA, to do what I would call the situational analysis of the NPA. So that has put me in a state where I understand the challenges and opportunities facing the NPA, and those, of course, continue to test them against the country's expectations and hopes of delivery of justice and the rule of law. So the situational analysis included my approach, as I would always indicate, even at the previous organization where I was, the SIU. It is important that I really understand the people management framework, and that's what I got to understand, and the business processes that are propelling various actions in the organization, and of course understanding the enabling systems that enable the delivery of the business. I'll continue to do that in the medium term, but of course ensuring that the organization continues to deliver. This I would call people, process, systems, because as you know, that if all of these are not managed appropriately, the organization is likely to suffer. I also understood the governance model of NPA in the context of NPA being the branch of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. I also got to understand the enterprise risk management and compliance of the organization, and that has put me in a space where I understand the key risks facing NPA. I also understood the business planning process, the performance management and reporting framework at an organizational and at an individual level. I also ensured and I got to speak to the communications team, and on that front, the communication and stakeholder management framework of the organization, both internal and externally. Having understood all of this, also it's clear that I joined the NPA at an opportune time when the strategy of the organization for 26-27 is being finalized. We've actually finalized that. As of yesterday, we were finalizing the targets and making sure that some of the targets are stretched to obviously meet the public expectation. So all of this in the context of the implementation of the long-term development plan. The strategic approach of the NPA going forward was discussed at the strategy workshop held on the 13th of February with senior management. The vision and mission of the NPA that we are committed to continue to strive towards achieving indicates the achievement of justice in our society so that people can live in freedom and security. And of course, with the mission that guides us, which is guided by the Constitution, as the NPA, we will ensure that justice for the victims of crime by prosecuting without fear, favor, or prejudice. This is an injunction of the Constitution, and we'll do so by working with our partners and the public to solve and prevent the crime. At a leadership and structure level, I'm in the process of considering leadership structure and filling of critical vacancies. The NPA capacity is very critical at that score. So critical vacancies at the top, and I will make recommendations to the president through the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development in due course. This is expected in terms of the NPA Act. Most of the top positions are really presidential appointments. In terms of the NPA Act, the deputies of the NDPP are positions that are presidential appointments. And currently, only 2 of those have got acting individuals in them. And these are the individuals you're seeing in front of you. And I'm really glad that we've been working well and we are all agreed in terms of the strategic way forward. As you may have noticed, the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions in Mpumalanga, has been filled, and that was publicized in the media. The filling of other positions is underway. Now, as you may be aware, that NPA has really been striving and to ensure that there's operational and financial independence of NPA. This is on the critical path, and this is part of the strategic focus area. I would really, when I speak to my colleagues, I colloquially refer to this as corporatization. We would like NPA to have operational and financial independence. I've been in discussion with the Ministry and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development on this subject, and I'm really pleased to say that the Ministry and the Department are fully supportive and have committed to drive the legislative reform process to enhance the NPA governance, operational and financial framework. This will ultimately ensure that the NPA will have its own accounting officers. Having discussed this with the Ministry and the Department, I envisage that the draft NPA Act to this effect will be introduced in the next financial year. So as I indicated, that really part of the situational analysis would entail internal and external observations. As you may be aware, that we are operating in the current geopolitical situation, which is characterized by a departure from the international law and order, which undermines global cooperation measures on anti-money laundering and other anti-corruption initiatives, and as well as broader mutual legal assistance framework. The level of crime in South Africa remains exceptionally high. While crime levels remain high, the crime resolution rate is undesirably low, and we will be focusing on ensuring that we're on an upward trajectory on that one. This is reflected in the detection rate and finalization rate due to a range of factors which we have outlined. For this reason, NPA has adopted what we call smart prosecution approach, whereby offenses with a high impact on community safety are prioritized without neglecting other cases. As you may be aware, that South Africa continues to grapple with the scourge of GBVF, which is gender-based violence and femicide. This has been classified, as you know, as a national disaster. Now, NPA plays a very crucial role and positive role in advancing both the GBVF, National Disaster Response Framework, and the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide through the expansion of the footprint of Thuthuzela care centers, amongst other measures. Thuthuzela care centers are part of the approach in the prosecution and general fight against the GBVF, and this play a very critical role as part of victim support. So we are pleased that these centers continue to play that role. And later on, we'll be informing you that we would like to expand these centers to ensure that we widen the support. The fight against organized crime has been prioritized, as you are aware, in this year's State of the Nation address, the President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, emphasized sharply the urgency with which this crime must be addressed when he said, I quote, our primary focus this year is on stepping up the fight against organized crime and criminal syndicates using technology, intelligence, and integrated law enforcement, close quote. Organized crime and corruption continue to grow at an alarming rate, often facilitated or enabled by state actors, as revealed by the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and other previous inquiries. This negatively affects the country's rankings on various global indices, which in turn undermines investor confidence and appetite. The National Advisory Council Against Corruption classifies corruption into three broad categories: state capture, systemic corruption, and frontline corruption, while the Auditor General identifies the public procurement system as the primary focus for many of these incidents. The most prevalent and increasing criminal markets include synthetic drug trade, extortion, racketeering, cyber-dependent crimes, and the heroin trade, with state-enabled actors serving as the government's Achilles heel in combating organized crime and corruption. Law enforcement agencies, such as the NDPP, of course, should then consider these insights when developing this. NPA is participating in the development of the national strategy against organized crime. Now, taking all of this, of the above into account, NPA identified strategic focus areas. We have to position it such that it really responds, amongst others in the criminal justice system, responds to all of these challenges. So we have structured planning process through the annual review, strategy review, performance plan, which results in the annual performance plan, which ultimately gets to be tabled in Parliament, annual operational plans, and now we've developed what we call Quick Wins Action Plan. It's abbreviated QWAPS. It's I call it QWAPS when I speak to my colleagues. QWAPS is really going to ensure that we propel some of the 8 deliverables. All of it will ensure organizational alignment, strengthen accountability, and delivers quick and high-impact initiatives that build public confidence and while enhancing institutional capabilities. Our 2030 strategic plan as NPA, we have identified high-level strategic initiatives aimed at strengthening organizational performance, enhancing institutional capabilities, and building greater public confidence. In the prosecuting authority, public confidence, you'll hear this quite often, because this is, amongst others, really what we want to focus at in terms of ensuring that we instill greater public confidence in NPA. These initiatives are critical because they provide a clear roadmap for modernizing operations, improving efficiency, and ensuring accountability. By focusing on both long-term transformation and immediate impact, the NPA is really positioning itself as a more agile, transparent, and effective institution that can deliver justice consistently and uphold the rule of law. I have considered the priorities and engaged with NPA senior management. We are all agreed that these priorities are aligned with the country's medium-term development plan and indeed public expectations. The following are some of the priority focus areas identified. The list, however, is not limited or exhaustive and can be reviewed during the strategic period. And we will definitely do so depending on the changes in the business environment. Now, number one, we would like to ensure that there's fast tracking of apartheid era crime, Truth and Reconciliation Commission cases. Excuse me. In this regard, we are also observing the proceedings of the Hampepe Commission, which you all are aware of. We are watching it with interest. Enhancing a professional and ethical prosecution service, strengthening organizational performance through skills development, enhancing the fight against complex commercial crime and corruption, establishing the IDEC Digital Evidence Unit, combating complex corruption and organized crime, strategic prosecution of organized crime. We use the word strategic deliberately, strategic prosecution of organized crime, implementation of proactive communication strategy, financial and operational independence. There it comes again. Expand the impact of community prosecutions, entrench digitization and implementation of electronic case management system at all lower courts. The advent of artificial intelligence have really triggered all organizations worldwide to ensure that we consider business processes that can be enabled by artificial intelligence. We are also doing that as the NPA. Right, so the NPA's high-level strategic initiatives outlined in 2025-2030 strategic plan are being operationalized as we speak through structured planning sessions with each business unit. These sessions ensure that every business unit and division translates organizational priorities into actionable commitments, with each unit contributing directly to the achievement of the broader initiatives. These focus on organizational priorities and delivering on performance necessitates that any resource constraints, particularly in specialized prosecution cases, are given urgent attention. The vacancy rate and difficulty attracting or retaining experienced senior prosecutors remains one of those common factors across that we are giving attention to as part of improving capacity of the NPA. The NPA conducted a capability review process. It was conducted. So as we resource the NPA, we'll also look at this capacity capability model that was reviewed. Now, by enhancing the annual performance plan, annual operational plans, and quick wins action plan into planning sessions, we create a clear line of sight between strategic intent and day-to-day operations. This approach ensures alignment, fosters ownership, and enforces accountability across the organization. Right, now, as we conducted the planning workshop, we have noted the need for the NPA that is agile, responsive, and impact-driven. As such, we resolved that all business units in the NPA should develop all these plans that I indicated. Now, I indicated to you that we, amongst the annual performance plan, operational plans, there's also a quick wins plan that we have developed. Now, some of the key focus areas as quick wins will include addressing backlogs. I've picked up some of the public comments, some of the analysts in relating the issues around case backlogs. And we are also going to be looking at case prioritization. We are going to be focusing on enhancing ethics and integrity within the NPA. Of course, implementation of the state capture recommendations, and indeed the implementations of Madanga Commission recommendations. I would also add any recommendations that might be coming from the ad hoc committee. We are also going to be focusing on organized crime, gender-based violence, and of course, resourcing of the organization, among other institutional priorities. We are currently rolling out a structured planning program under the theme towards high impact, strategic prosecution, and disruptive asset recovery. I'm going to come back to the issue around asset recovery later on. We are advising different business units on the alignment of institutional plans and of course, including the Quick Wins Action Plan. This meticulous planning function will be supported by the establishment of an institutional performance review structure. At a national level, we will bring in a national performance review structure, which will be put in place, and it will kick off in the new financial year, which is from the 1st of April. Right. Now, as I indicated, we have to align with the expectations of the public and, of course, the priorities of government. A focus on organized crime. NPA strategy against organized crime has been developed, and we are wanting to make sure that this strategy is aligned with the rest of the JCPS strategies, in particular the organized crime strategy of the country. Using racketeering provisions under the FOCA, which is a focus legislation, meaning Prevention of Organized Crime Act, the NPA focuses on kingpins. I had a comment this morning from the defense while he was outlining the deployment of the SANDF, which we do welcome, that the focus should also be on kingpins. Coincidentally, our strategy and that of the country should focus on identifying kingpins, syndicates, money laundering networks, and enablers thereof. You'll see in our statement that will be sent out. As amongst others, as enablers, we include accountants, lawyers, and other intermediaries. I've seen this even in my previous work at SAU, that these are really the enablers, amongst other enablers. This then led to the development of the National Implementation Plan, which we will be continuing to implement with the rest of the JCPS. And of course, we contributed to the development of the transnational organized crime strategy. And of course, in addition, the NPA and SAPS, in ensuring that there's coordination, we developed the stabilization plan. So there's also an established organized crime component in the NPA. You will see as you receive this statement, the details of the organized crime component is going to really position NPA such that it's in a better position to ensure the prosecution of organized crime. So, of course, the organized crime includes gang violence, cash in transit, haste, extortion networks, and others. So, a dedicated firearm desk would also is also established in NPA and will improve and strengthen coordination in addressing illegal firearms. Illegal firearms are something that is besetting the country, and we want to make sure that we contribute to stamping out that phenomenon. If you remove the illegal firearms, as you know, you remove the instrument of organized crime, amongst others. A dedicated firearm desk, therefore, allows NPA to move from merely prosecuting possession to dismantling supply networks and criminal enterprises, thereby curbing this violence. We are wanting to make sure that as we do so, is on an integrated basis with all others in the criminal justice system. Just in this week, we have met with the National Commissioner of South African Police Service, and this we did in ensuring that we speak to all the key stakeholders in the criminal justice system to ensure alignment. An aligned strategy with others will enable collaboration between SAPS and NPA, identification of cases, prosecutor-guided. We want to stress this prosecutor-guided investigations, asset recoveries, enrollment of cases, and, of course, effective prosecution. This collaboration will be demonstrated in various investigation projects, including, of course, as you may have noticed, the implementation of the outputs of Madlanga Commission. As you may be aware, NPA and SAPS conducted a joint briefing where we indicated that we are acting on the direction of the president, having gone through the interim report. In due course, we will be giving you a report on that. Right, I'd like to just really focus on some of the focus areas under the organized crime. We'd like to ensure that we contribute to the stamping out of illicit economy. And of course, we have also participated and contributed in the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill. Thank you. So we also are participating in the National Drug Master Plan and also the National Strategy to Combat Wildlife Trade. We've contributed to the National Biodiversity Bill and Trans-Organized Crime Strategy. So all of these are part of the artillery in terms of legislation that government is really working on, and NPA has to step up in ensuring that we contribute to that. As you know, that FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force, is a very important focus for the country, and NPA is no exception in contributing to that process. We are contributing to country remaining out of the grey list. So the NPA is responsible for prosecuting money laundering cases, prosecuting terrorist financing matters, enforcing asset forfeiture legislation, engaging in international cooperation efforts, and demonstrating effective implementation of anti-money laundering laws. So colleagues, we will continue as NPA to ensure that we strengthen our contribution in the money laundering prosecution cases. At the moment, NPA currently has 292 outstanding on the criminal, 292 cases outstanding on the criminal court rolls involving more than 400 counts related to money laundering. We are focusing on ensuring that we speed up this prosecution. A total of 97 new prosecutions were instituted, wherein trials commenced, accused pleaded, that is, from August 2025 until January 2026, compared to the previous year when 103 and 101 new prosecutions were instituted, respectively. The verdicts for the current financial year from April 2025 to January 26 resulted in 91 verdicts compared to 122 and 87 in the previous 2 financial years. I'd like to focus now on the Independent Directorate Against Corruption's role. As you know, that IDEC was established and also now established as a permanent institution. So since the start of IDEC, about 80 cases were identified as part of the money laundering investigations. 42 are under investigation and 38 investigations were finalized. 25 are enrolled to date, 5 of which were enrolled without money laundering charges, and a further 13 were finalized, closed after evaluation. IDEC also engaged in 53 mutual legal requests. So this is the role that IDEC plays as part of the FATF efforts. The asset recovery and asset forfeiture unit, as I indicated, that asset recovery is a very important part of our fight against crime. So on this score, we will not relent in pursuing South African assets and fugitives from the law. At an international level, we will utilize, and in fact, we are already utilizing the Interpol Red Notice. South Africa will also participate in the Interpol Silver Notice pilot, which offers enhanced international search, trace, and track mechanisms. Asset recovery possesses a critical part of the fight against crime and corruption. By taking back the process of crime, further asset recovery is one of the strongest indicators of anti-money laundering. So we would like to while we are investigating and also we prosecute, we will intensify asset recovery. While you are prosecuted, we will ensure that we take the assets. That will have maximum impact in ensuring that we stamp out the crimes that the country is facing. Right, so since the conclusion of the mutual evaluation process on 19 November 2019, AFU has obtained 2,397 freezing orders to the value of 13.8 billion and obtained 3,220 confiscation and forfeiture orders to the value of 13 billion and has recovered 6.5 billion. These are significant recoveries which really need to be applauded. The impact of the increased focus on asset recovery as part of NPA strategy is clearly demonstrable. 15 billion of funds frozen in the last 5 years compared to 16.2 billion frozen over the past 20 years. 8 billion confiscated and forfeited in the first 20 years and 5 billion in the last 5 years. 6.6 billion was recovered in the first 20 years and 6.6 billion in the last 5 years. The AFU has already exceeded, as we speak, 5 of the 6 annual targets in the current financial year. We are stating all of this so that it is clear to the public that work is really underway in NPA. AFU is on performance call. I have said that to the head of the asset forfeiture unit to sustain this performance and ensure that we intensify asset recovery. So, colleagues, I indicated that we want to strengthen the terrorist and financing prosecutions. Although South Africa faces relatively low levels of domestic terrorist recovery, terrorist activity, FATF requires us to demonstrate capacity to detect terrorist financial flows. And that's why we have to work with all the members of the JCPS, including the Financial Intelligence Center, so that we can be able to track all of this. To meet the FATF requirements, the NPA has done the following. We have developed an action plan, implemented a prioritization plan in the IDEC to deal with cases involving serious and complex money laundering, enhanced capacity through to strengthen prosecution, prosecute with a in the IDEC space, prosecute led. Same approach which was used by the Scorpions in the past. We have seen benefits in this kind of an approach. Of course, we should also improve our agency approach, and we want to continue to strengthen international cooperation. Strengthening international cooperation is really essential in the work of the NPA. So to this extent, we ensure that where we are required in the mutual legal assistance, in ensuring that we deal with cross-border crimes, that we strengthen the implementation of mutual legal assistance. The NPA effectiveness in prosecuting financial crime directly supports South Africa's economic stability and global credibility. I have indicated some of the performance that NPA has achieved, but I'd like to focus on some of the other performance areas. Over the past 3 financial years, our prosecutors really I'd like to recognize and really give credence and credit to the prosecutors who work hard out there to ensure that NPA meets its mandate. These prosecutors have maintained a high conviction rate across all court levels, even as they finalized hundreds of thousands of matters annually. Some of the highlights, which you will find indeed in the statement when we circulate it. So I'd like to, you may have seen this. Just in the past week, a few GBV cases have been indicated, right? In the Northwest case, where the Molopo Regional Court handed down 4 life sentences, an additional 20 years imprisonment, after a person called Tapelo Joseph Chukuchwane was convicted of 5 counts of rape and 1 count of housebreaking with intent to rob. These are some of the cases that continue to come in our courts, and we are just highlighting this. There's many others that our courts are dealing with. So we would like to ensure that we maintain that. Another case that we want to highlight just in the last week from the Eastern Cape, where Nuba Regional Court in Craddock sentenced a 49-year-old man to life imprisonment for raping his stepdaughter. Give a thought to that. He was sentenced to, the stepdaughter was 14-year-old. Really sad. These types of cases are among those that leave the most chilling impact of fear and trauma for families and communities, which our courts finalize daily across the country. So we are really pleased that these kind of cases are receiving attention. Right. Some of the stats that I will quote now really clearly indicate a upward performance trajectory. Except that our observation is that the conviction rate in the high courts has slightly decreased. But we've worked out measures to ensure that we improve that. This increased from 92.5% in 24 and 25 to 91.7 in 25-26. As you can see, it shows, but it stays above the 90%. Honestly, this is really quite commendable, but we'd like to ensure that we increase that. And this was often of an already established base of above 90%. Right. In the regional courts, which deal with serious violent crime, including murder, rape, and robbery, convictions rose from 82.7% to 83.4% over the same period. In the busy district courts, while the bulk of day-to-day crime, you could call it the coalface of dealing with crime, we have seen that conviction rates remained above 95%, reaching 96.2% in 25-26. These outcomes reflect not only individual dedication, but also the NPA's investment in training, case management systems, and coordinated case flow management with the judiciary and the police. These are not just numbers, as you know. Behind each percentage are victims who have seen their cases taken seriously, offenders held to account, and communities made safer. Right. Some of the priority cases, and I've already indicated, violent crimes remain really central. Violent and murder prosecution. NPA conviction rates in murder prosecution remain in the high 70s and low 80s. 77.3% achieved in 25-26, following a 77.2 in 2024-25. Despite the complexity and contested nature of these cases, as you know, that those who commit these crimes go out of their way to appoint really state-of-the-art defense counsels. But despite that, our prosecutors have stood up and produced all of these results. In Mpumalanga, NPA secured a conviction of a serial rapist, murder, Prince Themba Shongwe, who was found guilty of 9 counts of rape and 4 counts of murder of children aged 11 to 16 years, after being linked through a DNA and other forensic evidence. We are really pleased to show that the DNA analysis is enabling the NPA prosecutors to present formidable cases. In this regard, we are pleased to have heard that the Gauteng government when we listened to the Premier State of the Province address, that Gauteng will be opening a DNA center. We are really pleased about that. It's going to enable the criminal justice system to really continue to present effective cases. Right. So on the corruption side, in August 25, Polokwane Specialized Commercial Court convicted former police officer Godfrey Avasei for corruption after he solicited and accepted bribe, acting on law enforcement officers, as we have really followed, all of you, from the Madlanga Commission, that we do have in our midst as law enforcement agencies those who really fall prey to the criminals, and in fact, in some instances, really facilitate a situation where criminals benefit irregularly from the state. So I would like to really just go on to ensure that you understand that violent robbery with aggravating circumstances is one of those cases that also continue to receive attention. And there's an instance that we indicate there that in August 25, a Petty Regional Court in the Eastern Cape sentenced a 35-year-old Mtozami Mtweu to 15 years direct imprisonment for robbery with aggravating circumstance. So this is one of those cases I'd like to really indicate. Colleagues indicate and illustrate three important themes in the prosecution approach. We identify this crisis just as a demonstration. Meticulous forensic work. This is collaboration with SAPS and specialized units, and the willingness of witnesses to come forward when they see the systemic functioning of the system really addressing these cases. We are also focusing on organized and essential infrastructure cases. NPA has sustained conviction rates of around 93 to 94% in organized crime prosecution nationally, even while the number of these cases has grown. Conviction rates for essential infrastructure. As you know, that the country is beset with crimes against the infrastructure in the water sector, illicit mining, and all of that. So we have seen also an increase in the conviction rate on this. I'd like to also just mention on the corruption, complex commercial crime, and tax crimes. Right? Conviction rates in complex tax crimes have also seen an increase at about 96.6%. In NPA, we've got the NPA Specialized Tax Unit, which collaborates with SARS and the Hawks to ensure that we also contribute to the stamping out of tax non-compliance. The Specialized Commercial Courts, Specialized Commercial Crime Unit achieved around 90% conviction in serious and complex commercial crimes. As you can see, really that these are quite commendable. In nearly 700 government officials and over 1,000 private sector individuals being convicted for corruption in the past 5 years. Right. State capture and state-owned entities linked cases, Specialized Commercial Crime Unit, matters linked to asbestos and SA Express, which you probably know is one of the airlines head. These were the recommendations from the Zondo Commission, drawing together complex evidence against former senior officials and private sector accomplices. That we've got in NPA what we call a corporate alternative dispute resolution. Using this approach, a wide-ranging settlements were reached. And by the way, important to understand that when these settlements are reached, it doesn't mean that the perpetrators are let off the hook. We reach settlement with corporate. The word corporate is deliberate, but the individuals, directors, and all of those that are responsible will still follow to be prosecuted where evidence, of course, is available. Now, as you may be aware, the ABB matter and the SEP matter, both of them have yielded about 4.7 billion in punitive reparations recoveries. And all of these recoveries are paid over to an account that we call CARA, C-A-A, sorry, C-A-R-A standing for Criminal Assets Recovery Account. That by law enforcement agencies and other crime preventing initiatives. Right, the Asset Recovery Unit, as I indicate, has restrained and preserved more than 14 billion in state capture related matters. You may have picked this up in regular reports that the president gives to Parliament. We are really pleased to report this. So as you know, in all of these cases, there are various officers and executive authorities involved. In fact, our observation is that South Africa is one of in the world that is prosecuting former ministers, senior officials, chief executives, multinational companies, and we will continue to ensure that there is accountability. It doesn't matter at what level you are. Gender-based violence is one of the focus areas, colleagues. As I said, you will see some of the details in the statement that will circulate. I've already indicated the role played by Tutuzela Care Center networks. This network has grown to 55 sites across the country in 2021. At the moment, we are sitting at 68 sites, providing integrated services to victims and significantly improving the evidence brought to court. The latest currently added at the beginning of March in 2026 is a Flagstaff TCC in Eastern Cape. In the past year alone, over 41,000 victims received pre-trial services through TCCs. This is really to be commendable. But we are also focusing on cybercrime and new cyber crime types. We are building a modern prosecution service able to respond from ransomware and online fraud to the use of encrypted platforms by organized crime networks. So as you know, that offenses these days are committed in the cyber space. So we are ensuring that we enhance the mechanisms of attacking cyber crimes. I'd like to just indicate that there has been some, institutional reforms related to the building of public confidence, over and above pursuing the independence, operational independence, and financial independence. We are pleased that on the IDEC side has been appointed. As you know, this is a very mechanism to oversee the operations of IDEC. So we will be ensuring that Judge Takalani Joseph Raulinga is resourced and is able to perform his function. Now, on the rating of NPA, I'm gradually drawing to a close. On the capacitation of NPA, the program that we call Aspirant Prosecutor Program, important program that we grow our own timber, as it we take those graduates, law graduates externally, and those who have studied, those who are also internal in the NPA. This program really ensures that we continue to feed in the resourcing of the NPA. As we do our work, like any other organization, risks that we face relating to resourcing constraints, that we will continue to ensure that they are addressed. I've been to various courts, I've listened to some of our colleagues, especially those in the lower courts. There are facilities that will need to continue to engage with the Department of Justice so that our prosecutors there and just really the court will talk to the department in that. So and one of the really that is something that you will relate to. Our time to time are faced with what is called sting grant. Loosely put, where we observe, where as prosecutors we observe that here more really substantive and judiciable to be really coming out with some of the tactics of either postponing cases or raising some of the issues, but the prerogative of the litigants, those that are defending the accused, employ all the law that allows them. We now taken in our prosecutors so that they can stand up, demonstrate, study, also ensure that they make the whole of society. This just really other members of the criminal system. As briefly indicate on the state capture investigation and prosecutions. This is one of the areas where I have had that the public really asks questions on matters that have been coming out of the Zondo Commission. But in this regard, as you may be aware, that IDEC to ensure that these matters are now the Directorate against the Investigation Directorate Against Corruption deals, as we speak, 134 out of 218 state capture. 39 cases are arising from the 134 recommendations. So the total of state capture recommendations being 39. Number of cases under investigation is 20. Number of cases 12. And number of cases it's 3. There is a progression in dealing with these cases. Similar to how I have engaged other divisions in NPA and putting them on performance call. I have put IDEC on performance call to ensure that matters are speedily assessed and ensure that we enroll. So on that score, there are more cases that are likely enrolled emanating from the Zondo Commission. You would have realized and observed that we have had a conviction and sentencing parliamentarian, Mr. Vincent Smith, years last in relation to the Bosasa matter. This is the matter that was investigated a while back, but we are glad that this is a significant outcome that we show that we are responding and ensuring that we address matters of the nature. And there is a colloquial call for orange overalls. This is one of those instances. And other instances that will show that are enrolled where we enhance prosecution. And to do its work, IDEC has been supported by the Digital Evidence Unit. We go in detail in the statement, but that Digital Evidence Unit is really to ensure that the gadgets and all those that the criminals use to commit crimes if we seize laptops, we seize computers, we seize all the other gadgets, this digital evidence unit is enabling us to ensure that we unravel all gadgets. This is supportive. Another area that we'd like to assure you is that we are focusing on ethics and accountability. This is an area that we are really ensuring that as we do our work, we need to ensure that ethics and accountability and integrity in the NPA is also addressed. So there is a program. There is a program in NPA on an ongoing basis. There is an integrity program which requires disclosure of assets, disclosure of business, disclosure of conflict of interest. Okay, so this is done on, and this is very helpful. But we are taking this in line with the calls by the president, the calls by the minister, to ensure that we do a lifestyle audit as it is done across Ghana. So I'm, my colleagues have really, the senior management committee of NPA. I'm really glad that that will be implemented, and that will enhance integrity and accountability. Civil against NPA. We also get litigated against from a civil litigation, and this results from the decision that NPA colleagues take from time to time. There is in section 42 of the NPA Act, there is that provision that really limits the liability of the prosecutor. You could call it indemnity, but that indemnity does not indemnify us from recklessness, from negligence, or from malicious prosecution. So some of these cases have been taken based on some of the prosecutorial decisions. But we've got an area in NPA called Legal Affairs Division, seized with all these matters in defending the NPA. We have demonstrated to date a success rate of 81.3%. We're really pleased. In most instances, we are able to demonstrate to the court that the litigation is frivolous or it cannot be substantiated. So in this instance, the LAD continues to play a role supporting other prosecution services. A matter in the Free State where it's colloquially called the asbestos matter. You may be aware that we have had a favor of NPA in the Cholota matter. We are pleased about that because it really sends a message across that you will not just make challenges against, in particular, mutual legal assistance processes and all other processes. The courts have now ruled against, in favor of the no, and we will respect the process of the appeal which the parties are paying. As I draw to a close, indicate doing with the matters referred from the SIU. So in this regard, the SIU and the DPCI and NPA included a memorandum of understanding to ensure that these matters are addressed and addressed appropriately. We will also address the referrals from the sector anti-corruption forums. As you may know, last week, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Minister Machodina, launched the Water Sector Anti-Corruption Forum. Matters arising out of the investigation in this water sector will be addressed as being referred by the Special Investigating Unit. Now, Right. As you know, that there's also matters emanating from the Immigration and Border Management Anti-Corruption Forum. You would have noticed that SIU released an interim report, the investigation into Home Affairs. Now, you might recall that these matters date back to when Minister Motsoaledi commissioned an internal investigation led by the former DG Lubisi. This led to the proclamation and referrals by the SIU. This started after Minister Motsoaledi learned that Prophet Bushiri and Pastor Omotoso permanent residence documents were fraudulent. Dr. Motsoaledi commissioned a team led by the former Director General in the presidency and ordered they review all permanent documents and all 17 types of visas issued since 2004. And sued is looking at all this period. That work revealed so much that we are going to be people for the next 10 years based on the findings of the Lubisi team and the findings of the Special Investigating Unit. As you know, that this is one of the focus areas by the country to ensure that illegal immigration is stamped out. And hence the white paper that has been issued by the Home Affairs, and of course led by the DG Home Affairs and the Minister. As law enforcement agencies, we have to ensure that we stamp out this illegality. We are working with the Border Management Authority. You might have seen that they went to Maseru Bridge as the law enforcement agencies now in this week to raise awareness around this illegality. All the borders, all the ports of entry would like to make sure that the illegality that is seen there, all of those who are arrested are prosecuted accordingly. Now, the last paragraph before I close is the protection of witnesses and whistleblowers. You'll see the details in the statement. We would like to make sure that we continue to ensure that witnesses that really are threatened as a result of the evidence that they've put forward, they continue to be protected. And the whistleblowers who come out to report in terms of the convention, International Convention Against Corruption, they're called reporting persons. These whistleblowers require adequate protection mechanisms. And we are pleased that government is not sitting on its laurels. The Protected Disclosures Act is receiving attention to ensure that it's widened to protect wider whistleblowers. At NPA, we've got the Whistleblower Protection Program that we are in charge of in terms of the Witness Protection Act. So going forward, we expect that the wider whistleblower legislation will be introduced by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to ensure that the whistleblower protection mechanisms are improved. We have noted, and you probably may have noted, that as we speak, we are reminded of so-called Witness D in the Madlanga Commission, who was unfortunately murdered. And although the investigations are still ongoing, there is just that indication that he might have been murdered for the evidence that he gave at Madlanga. So we would like to mitigate all that. And we would like to really ensure that the measures are put in place to protect. Now, in closing, South Africans are rightly impatient for more visible accountability, especially for corruption and violent crimes. The figures we presented today show that NPA has really worked hard and really survived or emerged and survived the state capture decade and has been fundamentally rebuilt. Let's accept that. we would like to ensure that this performance trajectory, their capability, ethics and accountability are kept and sustained. And all of the plans and information we gave today is to ensure that we sustain a capable NPA. So we know, of course, that this is not enough. We therefore renew our pledge to prosecute without fear, favor, or prejudice. As you know, that this is an injunction in the Constitution. And we want to continue to do that, to protect the vulnerable, to safeguard our critical infrastructure and economy, and to do so in a way that honors the Constitution, as I said, strengthens the rule of law, and meets public expectation. We also commit to holding more regular briefings of this nature, where we'll, in many instances, zoom into some of the stats that indicate the outcomes of our work. We'll provide update on the organization strategy and performance information through traditional media, but also increasingly through our digital communication platforms. I thank you very much for listening. This brings me to the end of the briefing. Thank you very much. We will definitely be available for questions that may come, and Mr. Kganyago will facilitate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think you can have your bottle of water. You've been listening for an hour. Thank you very much. Yeah, and we are now at the end. I think, like the advocate Mothibi said, we had to do a long one because it was the first one, so that we are able to then give you the snippets of what is happening in the organization, and then we then give you an opportunity to then ask questions. But as you might have heard, he has also committed that we'll do regular press briefings to give you updates, and those ones will not be as long as this one. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Let us get to the section where we deal with the questions. Can you raise your hands? Let me see. 1, 2. Those are the two that I see. Those lights are too bright for me. Okay, maybe I must have some shades. Heidi, you can start.
It's Heidi Jacos from ENCA. I have a couple of questions. The first question is with regards to your capacity, but also skills that you identified. The fact that you might have people in the NPA, but a lot of people that had the skills to handle some of these big cases that you are handling are not there anymore. So how are you going to handle the issue of skills and capacity? And advocates, if you could just kindly explain to us, when you speak about the NPA's governance, operation and financial framework with its own accounting officer, what exactly does that mean? How is that going to look when it does come into effect? And then just last question, when you were the head of the SIU, you made a comment about Hangwani Maumela, that there is sufficient evidence for a prosecution given what you have found at the SIU. Now that you are the head of the NPA, will you be taking up specifically that matter, especially given in light of what's happened with Maumela?
Thank you. SABC.
Defense Estimo from SABC News. I'd like to know about the Protective Disclosures Act, which has come under criticism to say that it's not effective enough to ensure that it protects witnesses and whistleblowers. What is it that can be done to ensure that it has teeth, to ensure that those that have information to share are confident enough to approach the relevant authorities and divulge such information? And also NDPP. It has been widely reported that you will be at the helm for 2 years. Do you believe that particular period will be sufficient enough for you to have an impact in ensuring that the NPA is ethical and all those issues that you raised? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person here? You can go ahead.
Is that me? Good morning, my name is Nakuduleko and I'm from the Daily Library. Adv Mothibi, your predecessor, Shamila Batoyi, described the NDPP position as almost that of a powerful person without power, citing things like the inability to be in charge of the budget, amongst other things. I know it's only been 2 months in office, but I wonder if you agree with that characterization. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Alex Mitchley from News 24. Just the first question from me, Advocate. You say you've now been on the ground, spoken to colleagues. Perhaps you can just give us a bit more of an overview of the NPA that you found. What sort of state is it in? Because there are a lot of people who would argue that, there's a lot of people who would say that the NPA was in certain quarters was previously captured. There's a big skills drain going on. There are a lot of different issues, but perhaps you can tell us your view of the NPA that you have now found.
Thank you. And the last one.
Thank you. However, from UFM. I've asked this to police without an answer. This thing of illegal mining. When people are arrested for illegal mining, what is it in the law other than you prosecuting them for being in the country unlawfully or for the possession of explosives, the actual harvesting of minerals without necessarily getting a mining license? Which law in particular makes it a crime? Because it would appear that there's no such a law currently. So I just need clarity on that. And regarding the so-called state capture period, Advocate, you keep referring to the 10 years of state capture, which sort of politicizes it and inadvertently invites a question regarding pre-94 crimes. There's widespread perception that people frantically looted state resources on the eve of the democratic breakthrough. Is there something in the law of the land that prevents the NPA from prosecuting people for corruption that was committed during that particular period? And also, I'm keen on your view on cases that are dragging, and I will use the convenient example of the Senzo Meyiwa trial. You can even address the family if you wish to do so, as to looking at what happened also with Omoto. So the general view is that those don't inspire confidence. Do you have a comment on that as to whether you are able to take the country into confidence to say we will get a conviction at some stage in the sense of the murder trial? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The NDPP will then respond, and he will decide if there's a need for him to refer to any of his deputies to comment on some of these matters, because really it is important that all of them, if given a chance, come and explain. Thank you.
No, thanks. Thank you for the questions that you've raised. They are really, really insightful and pointed. So, Heidi, in terms of capacity and skills, I've indicated to you that as part of our resourcing plan, we will also look at the capacity project that NPA conducted, and it was conducted by independent service providers assisting the NPA. I'm particularly pleased about that because it has looked at various areas in NPA, various levels. So that part has indicated to us the areas that we need to focus at. And as we focus on these priority areas, organized crime, GBV, illicit mining, and so on, we'll ensure that we resolve. So as I spoke to the teams across, including the human resources team, as we sit today, the vacancy rate of NPA is about 17%, right? And the target, it's I think between 15 and 12. So it shows you that although it doesn't sound big, but those vacancies, some of them are critical roles. I've just indicated to you that the deputies to the NDPP, in fact, all of those roles are vacant as we speak. So that's very critical. You cannot have an organization functioning without that executive level. But we are pursuing the process to ensure that they are filled. Now, as you go down into the enabling function, support function, we are also looking what is it that we need to fill as critical positions. But of course, the core business is in the prosecution, right? And the prosecution skills, as I speak to my colleagues, it looks like the very critical skills that we require at the moment. Well, amongst others, I would say I want to single out the financial skills, financial prosecution skills. And on the IDEC side is financial investigation skills. And as I engaged with our colleagues in SAPS, these are the skills also that SAPS, DPCI, Hawks in particular, need to also bring on board. These are critical skills in the sense that the matters that we investigate, particularly in commercial crimes, in the corruption space, they require serious financial analysis. So we do have skills now, but we really need to beef up on that. We have demonstrated to you the kind of convictions that NPA really reaches. And of course, an input into those is effective investigation. In many instances, prosecutor-guided investigations. So those inputs results in these outputs where you've seen a good number of convictions. That should tell us that they are really, number one, committed prosecutors and skilled prosecutors at all levels, high courts, regional courts, and the lower courts. But of course, it is our duty to ensure that all of those skills that we have identified are filled. The question around the NPA ultimately having its own accounting officer. Heidi, you may be aware of the provisions in the Public Finance Management Act. The Public Finance Management Act makes provision for various scheduled entities. So, with this corporatization process of NPA which may result, or in fact, it will result in its financial and operational independence. Part of what we need to look at is the kind of the entity configuration that's required, and the Amendment Act will speak to that. We have a process that we are kicking off as we speak. That process will look at the legislation, the content of the legislation, and ultimately answer your question. What type of entity will NPA take? If it's a Schedule 3 entity, it will result into NPA that has got its own accounting authority. Because as we speak, Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act provides Schedule 3 entities with accounting authorities, right? It's unlikely to be a Schedule 2 because it will not be a business entity. Schedule 2s are like your SAA, ESCOM, and the others. So my projection and legally considered projection is that it may end up as a Schedule 3 entity. But of course, the work still has to be done. So that's the rationale around NPA ultimately having its own accounting officer or accounting authority, depending on the entity configuration that it ends up being. That offense, the Protected Disclosures Act, and I agree with you that as it provides at the moment, its coverage is not wide enough to cover other whistleblowers that are outside of the employer-employee environment. The Protected Disclosures Act, as you read, if you read it now, currently, it limits the protection to those who disclose wrongdoing, but in the employer-employee relations space. So the intent is to widen up, and of course, if I recall well, the Ministry of Justice might have, taken out some of the proposals. So for comments, if they haven't done that, they'll be doing that soon for public comments. It will also consider instances like incentivizing whistleblowers and. So, but to your point, PDA as it stands at the moment, it doesn't provide sufficient protection. Now, you are correct in terms of my term of office, because there's a mandatory termination or retirement of 65. So in about 2 years or so, I'll be reaching that age, which really says, in terms of the law, I can't continue to be there. But your question is, am I satisfied that we'll meet some of these performance areas in this period? We have the full financial year coming, the next financial year. We've got another full financial year coming with their own APPs. APP standing for annual performance plans. We'll have to ensure that we work hard that those plans are achieved. And in those plans are critical milestones. So I am satisfied that come the 2 years, if we execute and implement the annual performance plans as we have planned, we are going to see a positive difference. Nonkululeko, the concept of a person, I don't know, I think you said powerful person without power. I haven't heard that before. But I suppose it was used either in fact or proverbially. Again, Advocate Batoi can probably unpack that for you. But as we speak, the National Director of Public Prosecutions have got duties in accordance with the NPA Act, and those duties are really sufficient to ensure that that role oversees. If you read the legislation, the directors of public prosecution are responsible for the prosecutions in their areas, and we respect that. But I think the law goes further and says they conduct those prosecutions under the guidance of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. It's a very important provision to take into account, such that you really cannot, you can't just be a figurehead, so to speak. There are roles and responsibilities and powers invested in the Director of Public Prosecution. So I would like to believe that the legislation as it speaks puts me as the National Director of Public Prosecution such that I execute to ensure that prosecutions are effective, prosecutions are capacitated. The prosecutions is carried out without fear, favor, or prejudice. Nothing holds my hands such that I'm not able to contribute to that mandate of NPA. I think there's a question from News 24. And by the way, I need to just indicate that in the statement you'll see under ethics and accountability, we've been receiving various reports about allegations of prosecutors who may be interfering with cases and so on. News 24 was one of those publications that brought it out, and we really appreciate that. That's the role of the media that we have acknowledged, that it should bring out all of this wrongdoing. We do accept, and there is really a good number of prosecutors in NPA who are geared up, who are well-intended, who are doing their work. The results speak for themselves. The results speak for them, the result that we have presented. But of course, we cannot deny that there might be those who are engaged in wrongdoing. And we assist with the investigations to ensure that these allegations are properly and thoroughly investigated. If evidence is uncovered of wrongdoing, we will take consequence management, and they will face accountability. Now, the NPA that are found, after having engaged with senior management, even in the provinces, DPP, directors of public prosecutions, and their senior management, in fact, in one division, we even met, staff. After we've met the senior management, they had prepared the staff in the auditorium to meet. When I listen to the comments, first and foremost is really an A that is at work, and that is demonstrated by the results that we have just stated to you. But of course, there are challenges that keeps on being put out, like resourcing, capacity, and the facilities areas, in particular at the lower courts. But I suppose your question probably focuses on the comments that have been made before, that NPA was hollowed out, state was captured, and all of that. If that was the case, I say that has evolved. I found an NPA that has evolved and really focusing on executing its mandate. This is what I found. I see myself as now getting into being part of this team and ensuring a continued upward trajectory of performance, and ensuring that we prosecute without fear, favor, or prejudice. Because those are the prejudices that have been mentioned in the past. Prejudices of those who may likely have interfered with prosecutions and so on. Right? If you listen to what's coming out at the Hampepe Commission, those are some of the areas, and I did say that we are listening with interest at what is being said there. Whenever that process concludes, of course, they will submit the report to the president. And if there are areas where we need to take action, when we need to improve, and so on, we will do so in earnest. Right. Hello from UFM. When people illicit mining. I'd like to just park this one, and my colleague, Advocate Mzinyati, will address that substantively in terms of illicit mining. Is it a crime, or what are these people busy with in terms of criminal action, right? And I've picked up the comments out there that this is almost akin to artisanal mining, but we really looking forward to experts dealing with that aspect. But what invites us is any form of wrongdoing, right? any form of wrongdoing in that space, any form of criminality in that space will be dealt with in accordance with the prescripts of the law. You've mentioned whether NPA can deal with any corruption or any criminal cases pre-1994. You know, I've really studied the law to an extent that it has made me, given me the ability to execute. But in my studies of the law, I don't remember where it is said that, you know, dealing with crime, you may be faced with prescription. Crime doesn't expire, so to speak. So if there are reports, I mean, I come from an institution where some of the proclamations, like we have said now, with Home Affairs investigation, I mean, it dates back to what, almost 22 years back or 21 years back. So to the extent to which you may have information that can be translated into evidence pointing to wrongdoing or criminal action prior to 1994, we will certainly look at that. There is no impediment, just to respond directly to your question, in dealing with those. Cases that are dragging, I indicated to you that amongst other focus areas, we'll focus on the case backlogs, right? And some of the cases, I mean, you use the word dragging, which has a connotation that, you know, the case may have been unjustifiably on the roll or not being completed. The Meiwa case that you quote as an example, and I've had the opportunity to engage briefly when I visited Gauteng local division, Gauteng North local division, where the case is. The prosecution team have really briefed me sufficiently to indicate that there are prospects of success. I would put it that way. Of course, that is a prosecution process that is underway. And again, I would really not want to go into detail on that. But to your case, the prosecution has briefed me that they are really doing their part and working really hard, despite the complexities, the amount of evidence that they must, you know, go through. They are really doing their part. And I would like to really urge the public to give them the space and the opportunity to prosecute without fear, favor, or prejudice. Thank you. I'd like to just give my colleague, Advocate Mzinyati, to come and make comments on the illicit mining part. Thank you. Oh. Oh, sorry about that. The Maumela question. Yes, Heidi, you're right. When I was the head of the SIU, remember we released an interim report. An interim report also indicated that we are dealing with syndicates, and some of the syndicates were indicated that you know were sort of under Maumela. So when I got at NPA, and as recent as this week actually, after the SIU released their report, I was busy going through, and in fact, I spoke to my colleague, the head of the AFU, and said there are matters in that investigation that are attracting AFU services in the Home Affairs and possibly in the Tembisa investigation, and we are seized with those matters. In fact, I called on all the criminal referrals in the Tembisa investigation that have been referred to the NPA, and indicated that they need to be attended to, including where there was a referral of Maumela. So all of those will receive attention, I can assure you. Thank you.
Yeah, to respond to the question about the laws or the acts of parliament that prohibit illegal mining, I think there are two pieces of legislation that are important in this regard. And the first one is the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act, that prohibits illegal mining per se. It's Act number 28 of 2002, and the Precious Metals Act 37 of 2005. That one prohibits, possessing precious metals and smelting, processing them without a license. So basically, those are the two key pieces of legislation that regulate or prohibit illicit mining. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. From the online people, are there any questions there?
Yes, we have 6 online questions. The first 4 are from Susan Comrie from Amabungwani. In November 2024, it was reported that Advocate Shamila Butoi was reviewing the decision to withdraw charges against former Minister Zizi Kodwa. Did Advocate Butoi take a decision before her departure, or has the decision been handed over to you? How will you measure performance? Will it be based on the number of cases enrolled, the number of cases where trials have commenced, or the number of cases finalized? If performance is going to be measured on cases enrolled, will you not simply that are not trial ready? Sinesi pushed rational court judgment on the Extradition Act, which clarified which organ of state file to foreign states. What has been the impact in terms of the litigants challenging extraditions in cases in which the NPA led the extradition process? Advocate Mothibi previously indicated that the sub-task team investigating cases emanating from the Madlanga inquiry would be allocated state prosecutors. Can we get an update on how many prosecutors have been appointed? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I must take the last people in the room so that we are able to then draw to the end. ENCA. Oh, newsroom. Okay, I can't see very properly. Oh, it's Nobile. Nobile, I see you. Newsroom.
All right. So,
can you speak to the mic if possible?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So, Nobile Madala from Newsroom Africa. I've been covering the Gabinde inquiry, so I'm interested to know if the advocate has been watching what has been taking place at the Gabinde inquiry with a keen eye, especially with regards to the fact that one of your DPP is currently standing before that inquiry, and it's very important to understand what will happen in South Gauteng. But also to understand if the NPA, what's the NPA's reaction with regards to them rejecting for that cross-examination to take place. Lastly, there's been evidence that have been put before the inquiry with regards to the Cato Mining Unit and Major General Boys and Racketeering in charge. Perhaps what is that going to amount to? Are you going to be looking at those cases, especially because it's been highlighted that this evidence was not before court? So in their wake of the new evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mobile. Any last person this side so that we close? Yeah, okay. Media 24.
Just on the Madlanga inquiry, just two questions there. The first is, are you guys waiting for the inquiry to wrap up before you start pursuing suspects that have, well, potential suspects that have started appearing? I mean, anybody following, there's already at least prima facie evidence of kickbacks, corruption, et al. From some of the different officials that have appeared already. So are you waiting for it to close, or are you going to pounce, you know, what's happening there? And then just also related to that, are you concerned at all about future legal challenges of some of these suspects that you may or may not arrest and charge, with the fact that the Madlanga inquiry is technically looking at evidence contained inside dockets that will be used for prosecution, and you know, these same suspects are being forced to answer questions relating to that evidence in those dockets. Do you not foresee a possible problem for that when it comes to you trying to get those same dockets before a criminal court?
Thank you. I don't see any other hand, which means we're closing this part with the responses that are coming, and we'll take it from there.
No, thank you. Thank you for the follow-up questions. Right, Susan, I think it's Susan Comrie online, relating to the matter relating to former minister or former DM, former deputy minister Zizi Kodwa. I can report to you that the former NDPP has made a decision. However, in terms of the process, that decision must be processed back to the DPP for actioning. So she didn't leave it to me. I think that was the other question. How do we measure performance of IDEC? There are performance indicators in various of the divisions, but in particular on the IDEC side, I emphasized a lot on the implementation of the Zondo Commission, because IDEC was first and foremost established to ensure that it investigate outcomes of the Zondo Commission. So that is their key performance area. And there it will be the effectiveness of investigating those cases, getting those investigations completed and getting the dockets trial ready, and the trials of those cases, and of course, the conviction rate as we measure everyone in the organization. The issues around extradition, as NPA, we have noted the judgment, and of course, when I arrived, that's one of the areas that I indicated to my colleagues at NPA, and of course, given the judgment, they were already doing that. So there is an assessment. There is an assessment of matters that are at court, and to determine the extent to which they would have been affected. As we speak, the assessment is either been concluded, and Advocate Mzinyati can indicate that. The note that Advocate Mzinyati or my colleague there has indicated that the recent Constitutional Court decision is clear that the decision on the role of the minister does not have retrospective effect. So if you read that, it means that the cases that have been done up to the date of that decision will not be affected. And I'm really pleased about that. But the assessment has been done that I've requested, and I'll be getting a report, and I'm sure a report will be based on this observation. The SAPS task team on Madlanga, yes, we were in the same media room with the National Commissioner of Police, where we indicated that the NPA and the SAPS will collaborate on the outcomes based on the first interim report that has been submitted. And I can promise you that there's progress. There's progress being made there. I can confirm that we have allocated prosecutors there. And not just prosecutors from general prosecution. We've also allocated asset forfeiture prosecutors in that space. Because as I said, in line with what I've said, is that as we investigate, do prosecutor-guided investigations, there is definitely a possibility that there would be areas where asset forfeiture unit has to come in. So that as we investigate and ultimately prosecute, we need to recover the assets at the same time. Ngobile from Newsroom, thank you for those questions. Of course, we are following the Nkabinde inquiry with interest, because that process has been initiated at the instance of the NDPP at the time. So that is a process that is really akin to a disciplinary process, if you like. But of course, it's taking its own context as it is. So firstly, I think I really need to be understood that we would like to give that process the opportunity to really conduct its work in accordance with their terms of reference and so on, so that we are not seen as interfering in any way. But of course, it's one of the DPPs that are facing, call it disciplinary process. And it is meant for that, so that it ultimately interrogates the allegations that were made against him, and that a finding is made by the panel at the end. And that is why I would like really that we give and respect their role. You are correct. As NPA, we did bring out an application to participate and be able to lead evidence and cross-examine. Well, you know by now that that application has been turned down, and you have really asked that question, that the application being rejected. So based on that, our council, the NPA council, call it that is at the inquiry, is preparing an advisory, because it just happened when, yesterday or day before, thereabout. He's preparing an advisory. So based on that advisory, we will then, position or reposition ourselves. But as I said, we really respect the role of that inquiry, so that it uncovers whatever would have been done as part of the allegations. Similarly, to all the Katomana issues that are spelled out or pronounced in that matter, as we speak, we do take them into account, and again, we will at an appropriate time be able to indicate to the public what is it that any action, if required, that we are taking. Madlanga Commission from News 24, we are not waiting for the Madlanga Commission to wrap up. And this is a deliberate action that we took because it is important that we take action as and when evidence, is investigated and pointed out to, and hence this collaboration with the SAP to deal with the Madlanga outcomes, based on the first interim report that was presented to the president. As it has been reported now, they are expected to hand the second interim report, I think, in May. Again, based on that report, we will act as law enforcement agencies. With regard to the legal challenges, in the legal space, legal challenges are always possible, and we envisage that there'll probably be those kind of challenges. But of course, we've got the PA Act that guides us and the prosecutorial policy that guides us. So the extent to which evidence would have been made available, challenged at the Madlanga Commission, would probably be dealt with differently at court, because it's a different forum, and the rules there will apply. As you know, that invariably accused persons are entitled to the docket, and that's why they make applications to access the dockets before prosecutions start and so on. But now, as we now take up these matters and seek to formally prosecute, we will deal with those matters based on the Criminal Procedure Act at the time when they come up for prosecution. I would like to pause here and just give my colleagues the opportunity if they have any comment. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have tried our best to do it. If there's anyone that has got a lingering question before we close. Okay, from the online.
The portion of how many prosecutors have been allocated for the Madlanga Commission test team? It wasn't answered. Thank you.
Do you want to answer that, Ruth?
No, we have promised that we will allocate prosecutors. There's a number that we are working on with the police. We are still continuing to ensure that we provide sufficient number to the team. As we speak today, because of the nature of the and also the amount or the load of work, and at a meeting we had with the commissioner, we did some quick assessment of the sufficiency of the prosecution capacity to support the investigators. At the moment, we've provided 2, but there's an opportunity to step up depending on the load as it increases. I think that's the level of transparency we can give you at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was the last question. And at this point in time, let me take this opportunity to re-emphasize that we, as you have heard from the NDPP, have committed to do briefings as and when necessary, and we will stick by that. Thank you. Oh, there is a correction that needs to be made.
I just checked with the head of AFU. The 2 that I mentioned were from the general prosecution, and they are doing a great job there. As I said, very soon we will be announcing the results with the national commissioner. But from the AFU, remember, it's also part of NPA. I've just been informed that we've provided 4. So the capacity, and I think the number of AFU is such that they need to immediately do an assessment of whether there's actions that can be taken by AFU. Thank you.
On that note, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The press is now adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
12 o'clock.
Finish on time.
12 o'clock. Dot. On the dot.
Tell them
the
we finish on time.
Yes, no, we definitely time.
Yeah.
2 hours, 12 o'clock on the dot.
The dot.
We are out of here. Thank you. Now, this is my colleague.
Oh.
My colleagues.
Okay, so.
That's a lie. There's no way.
That's what she wants. Let me go back to the side.
Exactly 2 hours on point, eh? Right on point. Gaza.